first. You know, Rob Parker brought this up on the show yesterday. Shohei Ohtani having another big-time power year. Rob said he shouldn't be leading off. I had to think about that for a second. I hadn't given it any thought. But then I thought, you know what? He's right. It sounds new agey and analytic to have your best hitter leading off. But does it actually lead to scoring more runs? That's the real question. Now, just as background, we used to on this show devote a lot of time to lineup construction. But that was when teams were rolling out traditional lineups with that second, your little second baseman batting second. With the good hitters now regularly grouped toward the top, the actual order makes a small difference, not huge. But this is an extreme. This is the best power hitter in the league. So let's try to answer this. Should Shohei Ohtani be leading off for the Dodgers? Let's do a little digging in. The Dodgers moved Ohtani to the leadoff spot mid-June of last year when Mookie Betts was injured. He stayed there through their World Series championship run, as it did break up the Ohtani, Freddie Freeman back-to-back left-handers in the lineup. So it makes some sense in the real world, and they have kept him there ever since. Now, let's take a look at what the Dodgers lineup looks like, the top of the lineup at the very least. These are the numbers for only 2 months right now, but they do tell you something. The highlighted players, by the way, they're left-handed hitters, and again, in the real world, that makes a difference. You have the three superstars at the top. Look at the on-base and the slugging, mainly. I only put the batting averages for Freddie Freeman, because that's a .369 batting average. But Ohtani, far and away the best slugging, .653. Freeman right now, he's spiking. He's got a .626 slugging percentage. Mookie Betts, even not in his best year, that's not a bad on base right there. Freddie Freeman, again, a crazy batting average. Actually, Freeman, everything is crazy. Great on base, great slugging for Freddie Freeman. Again, these are good problems to have, all right? So the next level, all good at bats. Will Smith right now has a .433 on base. That's crazy. Teoscar Hernandez, a lot of power, .525. Low on base, high power, right? Max Muncy, he still knows how to get on base. Still a .350, even though he slumped early on, but he is left-handed. You don't want to have lefty, lefty, lefty. I'll bottom line it. The top three, they can all hit, right? And they're all good on the bases, Freeman included. But Ohtani is the National League leader in slugging the last 2 years. So, my opinion, that's too much slug to be leading off. The Dodgers are getting too cute. They have options. That's too much power to use that man to lead off. They're leaving runs on the table. So it pains me to say that. It took decades for baseball to get out of the 1908 dead ball thinking and move the best hitters to the top of the lineup. But even in DH baseball, no pitcher hitting, the leadoff man does not get enough traffic on the bases. I'll show you. It's kind of obvious point, right? But Ohtani right now, he has 23 home runs. 17 of them are solo home runs. Ohtani has 23 home runs. He has 39 RBIs. That proportion doesn't make sense. Now, he leads the league in runs scored, but even on a club with a deep lineup, it doesn't seem like the Dodgers are maximizing that high level of production. So here's what I'm talking about. All right, this is it. This is the percentage of plate appearances with men on base, up and down the order. That's the plate appearances. Pay attention to this column right over here, the percentages. The cleanup man, number 4 spot in the lineup. Nearly half of his plate appearances, he has a man on base. 49%. This is league-wide. The number 3 hitter, 46.5% of the time. Number 3 hitter has men on base. So you keep moving down the lineup. It goes down, it goes down, it goes down, it goes down, and then it goes way, way down at the bottom, all right? That's a drastic drop. 35% for the leadoff hitter. That's all. 35% of the time there's a man on base. These numbers are for this year, but it also holds up for a larger sample. We've run them many times. So 1 and 2 see the fewest amount of runners on the bases at the time. But you can, of course, score more runs. You're getting on base and you get more at-bats. And that's the other crux of things. Take a look now, to be fair, how many times you do get up. More as you move up the lineup. For every spot in the lineup, you pick up anywhere from 15 to 20 plate appearances. So the number 1 guy playing a full season, Ohtani plays near a full season, 746 plate appearances, right? The Dodgers, by leading off Ohtani and having him in that number 1 spot instead of the number 4 spot, they're picking up about 50 more plate appearances over the course of the full season. That's not small. That's big. Is it enough to offset him batting with so few men on base? I think that comes down to their options, and I think they should be more flexible. Mookie Betts is still a good choice. Contact, on-base skills, some power, but not too much power. Will Smith, as I mentioned, .433 on base right now. He has good contact skills. He has almost as many walks as strikeouts. You want walks leading off. Optimally, you want walks leading off. And it's early, but Ha-Seong Kim has a great on base, and he's 5 for 5 in steals. Now, I know I sound like it's 1962, but yes, optimally, Maury Wills leads off, Mickey Mantle hits cleanup. That is what I want. Now, I'm sure Dodgers baseball ops have run the numbers, but Shohei Ohtani has hit his way out of the leadoff spot. We've run the numbers. We'll show them to you in a moment. First, though, let us know what you think. Should Shohei Ohtani be moved off the leadoff spot for the Dodgers? We bring in the panel. We get their opinions. Joel Sherman is here. Anthony Recker is here. Hello, fellas.
Hey, BK.
90 minutes of you guys. This is excellent. Give me your overall thoughts quickly, Joel, on the lineup and Shohei Ohtani.
This is a little bit like you saying, I don't like how you make your steak. And I go, is it delicious? And you go, the best I've ever had. And I go, but I should make it a different way. Yes.
Yeah.
Like, this team is averaging 6 runs a game. Since he went into the leadoff spot June 17th of last year, they're first or second in everything. So, like, do you actually think they'd get over 6 runs a game?
Yes, that's what I'm saying. Yes. I like garlic on my steak. So the steak can be great, but I can get garlic and I like it even more.
And you wouldn't want Freeman or Ohtani not to bat in the first inning, right? So
that's true.
Right.
Yeah.
And so that means you do give some avenue. They're both great hitters against lefties, but they're lesser hitters against lefties.
Yeah.
I mean, it's almost 350 points of OPS for Freeman this year, for example. So I'm scoring 6 runs a game. I'm not giving an obvious lane for relief pitching late in the game, and I should change it because you want your steak cooked a different way.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. Anthony.
So to me, when you look at this, I think, and to your point, Joel, they're scoring a ton of runs. And so when you talk about that steak and how you want it, it's really about, we're talking about the team, not necessarily Shohei Ohtani's numbers. Yes, Shohei Ohtani's numbers would look different if he was in the cleanup spot, but would that mean more production overall as a team? That I'm not sure of. I mean, I agree with you. If we did this, Shohei Ohtani, you might take a couple homers off the docket because of the plate appearances, but the RBIs would skyrocket, right? And we would have that look of, oh, like the Manny Ramirez from the early 2000s with 40 homers and 150 RBIs, and it looks sexy. But from a team perspective, I like the idea of having him in the leadoff spot right now, just because he's the guy out of those top 4 that actually strikes out at the highest rate. So, and I'm not saying guys would be pitching him drastically different, but if you could try to get more chase with runners on with Shohei Ohtani and expand the zone a little bit, and this is a guy who strikes out a little bit more than the others, 25% compared to around 17-18 for Will Smith and Freddie, and of course 9% for Mookie Betts.
Because they're
when
elite.
you look at those numbers, 100%.
Yes.
But when you combine that, I say I would rather have those guys that strike out a little bit less, better bat to ball skills in those situations if I know Shohei is going to be on 40% of the time anyway.
I get it, right? These are first world problems, as we say, right? It's like you talk about, oh, which elite guy do I want at the top of the lineup?
That's it.
However, we ran the numbers on this because you can run a sim on it. It's not perfect. And also, the differences between a lot of these, like 1 through 20, Joel, are like we're talking 1,000ths of a run difference. But this is essentially the highest yield runs per game that we found with a real-world lineup where you're going righty and lefty. And that's Betts leading off, and that's Freeman next. Pages third, who's now hitting. Wait, Shohei Ohtani in sim after sim is the cleanup hitter. Sim after sim, he's the cleanup hitter. Okay, Joel.
I'm glad. I would hope to play the Sims instead of the Dodgers.
Why? What's wrong with this?
Because Ohtani might not bat in the first inning.
That's how it works.
He might not get a 5th at bat in the game doing it this way.
And what if he gets X amount of runners more on base?
They're averaging 6 runs a game this way.
You can average 7. You can average more.
I think you're taking.
It's possible to score more runs. Am I wrong?
By the way, they won the World Series this way. There is no higher one.
Barely. See what I did there? Yeah, they won barely. They almost lost.
They got the Oscar. You want them to get the Super Oscar.
Yes.
You know, I would also say there's probably something. I wonder what the catcher among us thinks. Ohtani creates an instant problem in the game. He can make it 1-0 right away. Wait, and if he gets on base, he creates a hole for when Freeman's up. He creates maybe more fastballs for other hitters. I mean, he is bringing something, and you sloughed on it. He has 64 runs. It's 9 more than anyone else.
I wrote it, and I read.
But you kind of went out. He's leading the league in runs. As if he's leading the league in
He
wins.
didn't like how I said it.
You don't like how I make my
For the
steak.
record, Your Honor, he didn't like how I said it.
You don't like how I make the steak. Like, they're averaging so many runs, and like he has 9 more runs than anybody else, so he is being driven in by others besides himself.
All right, so quickly, real quick, because you brought up the dynamic for what a catcher would think about this and him being on base, and I think that's valid because the guy can steal bases. What happens when he starts pitching again? He's not going to steal bases at the same clip. We know that. We've seen that over, and he shouldn't.
More than likely.
He should not, because the risk of getting hurt and something happening is too drastic, and they need the pitching right now. So at that point, do you think about moving him out of the leadoff spot? I think it might make more sense then, but I'm not saying you should. I just think that's a factor that we can take into consideration here.
What influences me mainly is he's slugging 650.
100%.
As I said, if he was slugging 540, which is darn good, it ain't 650. So can I show you my preferred lineup, and you can
Yes, I'd love to see how you're going to make this stick.
Here's how I would make this. So I tell you what, and this is from watching them play, and I called a few of their games too, like 2 years back when Freddie arrived. Betts and Freeman 1-2 is about the most dynamic thing I've seen on a baseball field, probably since like Joe Morgan, Pete Rose.
Since Ohtani Betts.
No, they're better. The contact, the power is there. Then I've got Will Smith, who is currently with a 430 clip. He doesn't have to even do that, but he's contact, he's walks, he's three-hitter. You can put Teoscar there, I'm fine. You can flip-flop anybody you want. Ohtani's my cleanup hitter. He's getting the most base runners out there, and I know, I want him up in the first inning. You know what? Between Betts, Freeman, and Smith, he's getting up in the first inning, and then I go the rest of the way. You can mix and match all you like, because you have quality there. That's my favorite lineup.
I really do believe this. I'm probably wrong. I think if we sent that lineup to 30 managers and 30 pitching coaches and said you could face that, or you could face what the Dodgers do, they would say, I'll face Brian Kenny's. Because again, I think I know he'll get up in the first inning a large percentage of times, but not every time. I know you think he'll get up 5 times a game anyway, but not as the high percentages now. I want him batting in the first inning, and I want him batting 5 times a game all the time. And you've just removed that for a team that is scoring at dynamic levels to just do something that feels simulated right.
Fair enough. For the record, he did not consult with 30 managers, so him saying that doesn't mean it would happen. Also,
hey, managers.
Also,
you all have my phone number.
Disclaimer. I like that.
By the way, don't call him. I would say, Ned Yost a few years ago, maybe it's 10 years ago at this point, he was leading off Alcides Escobar, which again seemed like a very 1962
I remember that team, unfortunately.
And so they said, hey, Ned, you got to get with the future here. You got to have a high on base guy. It's not the speedy shortstop. And Ned Yost, to his credit, said, I know this, we're scoring more runs. Like, I'm not thinking we're scoring more runs. We are actually scoring more runs with Escobar leading off. And I'll say, how do we know what works sometimes? And I had to say at that point, it's working now, having Escobar leading off. So, wait, let me just finish the point. I also like Schwarber leading off for a lot of the reasons you like Ohtani leading off. So we don't know. Like, is it possible that my optimal lineup is not as good as Ohtani leading off, Schwarber leading off? Yes, because we don't know everything. But I don't like wasting that much slugging. There.
Through June 16th last year, they did do it a different way and decided to do it this way from June 17th on, and they won a little thing called the World Series.
But they didn't win the World Series as a result of that. And going lefty-lefty creates some problems. So you have to try to divvy that up, because come playoff time, you can get a lefty and get a lane
for
on
a problem, looking for a solution.
Oh no, this is the problem you want. I have so many great hitters. What do? I have a guy slugging 660. Do I move him back in the lineup? All right, last thought.
The only thing I'll say is don't get caught up too much in small sample size either. I do like Will Smith batting third with the way he's going right now, but I would rather have basically the last 3 years of Ohtani, Freeman, and Betts in the top 3 spots than sneaking anybody else in there, because small sample size can get you hurt over the course of a long season.
I even remember, here's another anecdote. I remember telling Bobby Valentine, you having Jacoby Ellsbury leading off, he's leading the league in total bases, and he's leading off, you're kind of leaving runs on the table. And he said, well, if I move him in the lineup, is he still the same Jacoby Ellsbury?
Sometimes lineups
which is true.
Do different things with different guys.
And maybe he would. I'm not saying I have all the answers.